Welcome to Tarkov. Today we're going to be exploring a new side of Tarkov I've never touched. That's pretty much all because of its new addition to the game. If this was in the game earlier, I most likely would have already done it. What I'm talking about are the new Tripwires added this wipe into Tarkov. And to quickly get it over with, the reason I'm currently in Ground Zero is because I don't actually have the Tripwires unlocked yet. I'd have to complete 2 tasks before we could get it, so that's going to be the first goal of today's adventure. As to what our task was, our first one was to simply locate 2 tripwire spots, one in Ground Zero and one in Customs, which I had already done. And since this task is to locate the tripwires, we didn't have to extract, so I unintentionally took the fast travel out to my stash. Like I said, this didn't matter, we had our task done so we could move on to the second one of today's adventure, which was literally exactly the same thing but just on factory and customs instead. Naturally the first one I chose was factory. I thought this was going to be quick, so I headed into factory to get this over with. After figuring out where the hell I was, we started heading over to the breach room in the offices. But our journey on the way there didn't last so long. The boss of Factory Tagilla had some other plans, but my SSA AP should be able to kill him fairly easily. Or not. I genuinely don't know how pretty much one of the best 5.56 ammos in the game just can't pen his armor. But either way, we just had to move on. This time we got a much better spawn, heading straight up to the 3rd floor where the breach room was, though this is a pretty popular hallway for other PMCs to show up. The classic Tarkov prone play that pretty much always worked, and I definitely didn't steal it from another streamer. Either way, I'm surprised how we're still alive, and after checking my HP, 9 HP is definitely quite a close call. Where I decided to heal up was also the breach room, so we did complete that section of the quest. This raid wasn't over just yet though, we had a few more PMCs to deal with. Now this guy obviously had a friend. He wasn't going to peek though, considering what just happened to his teammate. I kept holding though, and about 2 minutes later, he decided to show up. But my bullet decided to ricochet off his head. If I remember correctly, I was using BP, so that was pretty much just luck, and it all came down to ricochet when it bounced off his head. With the blacked head though, I didn't bother to fight it, I was one shot, so we headed out to the extract and moved on to our next map, which was Customs. As to where I had to go this time was 3-story dorms on the 1st floor. But I actually had something that happened in this raid that I don't think will ever happen again in my playtime playing Tarkov. And that was this right here. A full squad of level 1 Timmies, literally all wearing their starter kits, the one that you spawn with when you first open the game after you start a new wipe. Finding a level 1 playing his first raid is already rare enough in Tarkov, but a whole group of 4 is absolutely insane. I honestly might have just decreased the Tarkov population by 4 players after this raid. Who knows, they could maybe request a refund, but I don't know if refunds are a thing in Tarkov. Either way, that's a horrible first impression for those 4 players, but I guess that's just how Tarkov is. They gotta learn it the hard way. Now that we made it to dorms, completing the task was extremely simple. We literally just had to walk to the stairs and it was done. So we headed straight to the extract. few aimbot scavs along the way, and we were already almost dead. And then to add on top of those scavs, we got shot at from the other side of the river. Now, since whether I died or not, I still had this quest completed, I decided to try and fight by exposing myself to try find out where he is if he had shot me. Though he didn't shoot me, so I thought screw it, I'm just gonna extract if this guy's not going to take the fight. Saves me the time building another kit. If I die, I genuinely hate having to re-kit. And now that we had the task done, we could finally buy the tripwires, and it was time to head into our first map, which I chose to be Interchange. And heading straight to the idea entrance, I realized that I don't know how to actually place these tripwires down, and after a quick YouTube search, I figured out that by simply pressing B, you can attach a tripwire to whatever grenade you're holding, but I had no idea where to actually place this down. That was until I heard if you don't know what those shots mean, that means Killer is in the raid. And what does Killer mean? That means a lot of Chads are gonna be going in, killing him and heading straight to the hole-in-wall extract. This is a perfect opportunity to place a tripwire on this choke point, straight to the hole-in-wall extract. And after placing it down, I realized that I just trapped myself on the other side of the tripwire. Quickly running around, we managed to get back up there and into our hiding spot, where we'd wait and hope for a PMC to eventually come and walk through our tripwire. And that's about it. Now all we have to do is just wait, and wait, and wait. Soon enough, there was a PMC outside, though he was on the road below where my tripwire was, heading towards where the extract was. Now I don't know if this was a PMC or just an AI scav walking by, though it didn't really matter. He was already dead. Straight after, I went back to hiding, though sadly that was about it for the entire raid. And doing this quickly made me realize how long this is actually going to take. Considering we have to spend 20 to 30 minutes in a raid just for the slight chance of someone to come to where I was, this is going to take an extremely long time, and I honestly don't know if it's going to be worth the time investment. Now, since I heard Killer's shots earlier, I knew where he was and where he would have died. And curious to see what happened, I headed over there, over to Brutal, looking to find Killer's dead body and any other dead PMCs. Soon enough, we found the man himself, Killer, dead on the floor and completely stripped. Not just that, but pretty much every single PMC that I could find dead on the ground was fully stripped. All that there was left was a few AI scavs laying around, and that was pretty much it. Where the hell these PMCs went, I have no idea. Probably safe room extract now that I'm thinking about it, but I didn't check in the raid. Luckily I could pick up the grenade that I placed, but the tripwire is long gone. And heading out to the hole-in-wall extract myself, I got a nice little surprise that I'm honestly shocked even happened. Dying to a level 47 with a 10 KD with only about 12 minutes left in the raid. This was enough for me to just send it straight into labs. I don't think Interchange is going to be time efficient enough, especially with how late it is into wipe. I just don't think enough people are really playing that map. Now, although labs is going to be a lot more populated than Interchanges, there are also many extracts to this map. The cargo elevator, the main elevator, the medical elevator, the parking extract, the hangar extract, and a few more. With all that though, there's two main extracts that people like to take. That's the main elevator and the medical elevator, in which I'm set up at the main elevator, with one tripwire at the elevator itself and the other one at the power that turns on the elevator. And just like Interchange, it's now a matter of time to wait until a PMC comes to us. But yet again, with 8 minutes left in the raid and no sign of any movement or even any PMCs left in this raid, I'm honestly starting to regret committing all this time to tripwires, as it doesn't really seem like anything's gonna come out of it. but we're just so far committed into it that I just also really don't want to stop. Having completed both those tasks, buying all these labs keycards, buying all these VOG grenades and tripwires, at this point I don't even know if I want a kill with the tripwire. I honestly just want someone to run into it and see if they even die to it. Because if you really think about it, I could be wasting all this time for someone to run into it, then for nothing to happen. And soon enough, we got a really good audio cue, giving me a little more hope that maybe playing patient and just waiting a little longer is the key to success. With our tripwire going off, I was sure that we just secured ourselves a single kill, but instead of pushing instantly, I decided to play it safe and wait a little longer. Yeah, things weren't looking that great. It could just be luck though, maybe he's just pre-firing to be safe. Heading into yet again another labs raid, this is starting to take an insane toll on my rubles. And after waiting and waiting and waiting, surprise surprise, absolutely no one came. I also found out that these VOG grenades seem to disarm themselves. I'm not sure how long it is exactly, but it seems to be about 15 to 20 minutes before they just drop on the ground and stop working. At least you can still pick up the grenades, I guess. For a little bit of reference here, these grenades cost me about 120k per grenade. The tripwires are, I think, 35k, labs keycard is 230k, and then the rest of the kit is maybe another 250k. Now, I'm not great at maths, but you don't need to be great at maths to realize that that's a lot of rubles to be spending on practically nothing. Still though, I kept trying, using different spots, not just the extracts, yet still, no one came. Which is weird, because whenever I'm playing a normal labs raid, I feel like I can never escape the PMCs. But when it comes to tripwires, I can never find the PMCs. Eventually I got bored enough to test out one of these tripwires, which confirms my point on being able to just outrun them. And so we headed out to the medical elevator extract, finding ourselves a nice little surprise. I love how the one time I don't decide to camp the extract, there's a guy camping the extract. Though finally, after dumping about 5 million rubles into these kits, we finally got ourselves a little action. The only problem was, I wasn't set up. Even though we died, checking our death screen, we could confirm that we killed the first guy. It was pretty unlucky that he had a friend, but at least the tripwires went to some sort of use. If you replay it in slow motion, you can see that his flashlight started to drop before the second tripwire even exploded. That means he was unable to outrun the first. And with that semi-successful attempt, I headed straight back into another raid, where we had almost the exact same situation play out. Both tripwires had been triggered, but whether he had died, I had no idea. I didn't hear any movement, but then again, I really don't trust these tripwires after I found out that you can simply just outrun them. And just in case, I decided to take this guy's gun as a form of self-defense in case he was still alive. Dying to a 200-hour player who's simply better than me with a 6 KD. Fundamentally, I think these tripwires are just not good enough. The fact that you can just simply outrun these grenades kind of ruin it for me.